I called this collection and my essay in it, "I Feel Great About My Hands," in tribute to Nora Ephron. If any of you are familiar with the New York Times bestseller list, you already know she feels bad about her neck. Ephron mourns having entered the high-collared, scarf-demanding years. I just don't feel her pain. In my wardrobe, colorful, exotic scarves rescue fashion mistakes, hide midlife hickeys, and I definitely don't feel bad about those. And high collars, they make me feel tall and regal, even though the only tall thing about me is my hands. Big hands on a small woman may not sound like such a good thing. And when I first noticed their disproportionate dimensions as a late-blooming 12-year-old, probably because not much else about me was growing as quickly as I'd hoped, I didn't exactly celebrate. In fact, arrested by one of the bust exerciser ads then prevalent in the back of comic books. You know those ads. I considered that perhaps if I spent less time sketching and drawing and more time doing push-ups, I could possibly redirect my body's growth hormones to a part of my physique more likely to enhance my social life. Hands are not the kind of attributes that teenage boys and middle-aged bloggers typically rate on a scale of 1 to 10. But they do offer a mature woman several advantages over other body parts when it comes to attracting attention. You can't reach out and touch someone with your breasts. Well, not just anyone. And frankly, not with mine. Plus, even if I hadn't watched half a dozen close friends undergo the trauma of losing one or both of theirs, the terrifying statistics make it abundantly clear. Smart women don't get too invested in their breasts because they may turn against you. Hands, however, are not so vulnerable to disease, and they have the added advantage of being on display virtually all the time, regardless of how old you become.
She was looking at me as if seeing me for the first time, and she said with genuine compassion, "Mom, do you mind growing old?" The compassion of the teenagers. I hesitated and then responded with my own question. "How do you feel about how you look?" As she made a face and struggled to find the words, I said, "See, you're beautiful, and you don't see it. And I'm well past my best before date, and I think I look great."
With lightning speed, I realized this shop sells expensive creams and cosmetics. Unfortunately, it's too late to run. "Please, you must sit." Manicured fingers waved me onto a white bar stool. "Excuse my English." I remove my inelegant knapsack. I take the assigned seat and ask, "Where are you from?" Because, truth be told, I'm far more interested in learning about this mysterious creature than in hearing her pitch. "Israel." I smile at this rare opportunity to show off my few words of Hebrew. "Erev Tov." Suddenly, an accordion arm unfolds. A round mirror appears in front of my face. The saleswoman flips the mirror to the dreaded magnified side. Pores are craters and lines are canyons. All hopes of discussing Middle East politics are dashed.
It's the lines in my face that I have the most trouble with. I stare at my facial furrows, the banks of flesh curling around them. The lines are many, and they are in the wrong places, not attractively situated at all. Some are deep and uneven, some superficial and characterless. They look dry and thirsty. I have been quite unhappy with these lines. They make me look old. And yet the other day I had a wrinkle revelation. At a long and tedious meeting, I looked over at my friend, a feminist who is my age. Like me, she is gray-haired and makeupless. Bored with the meeting, I fixated on my friend's face. She has lots of lines. And these lines moved as she talked. They opened when she laughed, bulged out when she was unhappy, scrunched up when she was uncertain, and rested attentively when she listened. I looked at her lines, and I loved them. They were signs of wisdom, life, and learning. They were guides to her responses and emotions. They were entrancing. I stared at her for the rest of the meeting, interpreting the meeting's tone and outcomes through the lines of my dear friend's face. I enjoyed myself immensely and saw her, as I always have, as extremely beautiful.
I'm gonna do that again. Kind of an important line. That's kind of the whole reason I wrote the song. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for being on the button there. Here I go again. Every line in your face is a road you've been down. It's a freight train you hopped. It's a night in a strange town. It's a joke that you told. It's a tear that rolled on. It's a sad story you heard.
Soon there are 8 or 10 of us in the lake, gliding around in the soft water, never quite reaching the mist. And I'm just so happy and grateful to be with these women, to be one of these women. I feel rich in the presence of my women friends, sparkling like a small constellation all around me.
And the scars on your hands, it's the hard work that you've done. It is the skin that you've touched, all the little wars that you've won. It's the baby cradle, it's the letters you wrote. It's that time you held on. It's that time you let go.
But if I weren't 50, these wonderful women wouldn't be my friends. And I wouldn't trade them for 20/20 vision or a tight butt, not for an instant. These women here at the cottage are members of my book club. A dozen of us whose connection goes back 2 decades to a neighborhood playgroup. 20 years ago, we were pouring apple juice, wiping noses, and reading picture books aloud. Now we're sipping wine, sharing menopause remedies, and widening our view of the world as we discuss books. On this watery morning, while most of us are swimming, others are inside the cottage, setting out homemade granola, baking orange cranberry scones, and brewing coffee and chai. Really? Does life get any better than that?
Cooking and eating together had always been a big part of our friendship. We all met in our 20s and ate together throughout university. We've celebrated graduations and first jobs and weddings and first houses and kids. So at the farm, planning the food and preparing it and of course eating it always seemed like a celebration of friendship. Fresh oysters, seared duck breast, long-simmered turkey soup, lobster dripping with butter. By candlelight, our faces glowing from a day outside, we savored the tastes and talked and laughed long into the evening, as if we didn't want the meal to end. When we'd finally rise from the table, we'd crank up the music and dance while we did the dishes. Our children, for so many years, were observers to those rituals and pleasures of the meals. Often they turned up their noses at that too fancy food, and as teenagers, they sometimes listened to our conversations about politics or education, but usually they just scurried off to the basement to play ping pong, scornful of our blasting Motown rhythms and embarrassed by our dancing. I still smile when I think about those evenings. Now, my children and their farm friends are the same age that we were when we all met. The dinner table is once again ringed with glowing young adults. The years have made the pleasures of the table richer, and dinner tastes better than ever.
And I was in the full throes of menopause that summer. I didn't want to do hormone replacement therapy like my mother did. I figured this body used to chug along just fine before it was fueled by estrogen, and I could figure out how to do that again. But this was my second year of sleepless nights and painful hot flashes, and I was getting discouraged. "She's having a last kick at the can," I said, feeling a little empathy with the old hen who wanted to brood her eggs. So I moved her eggs from behind the hay bales into the nesting box, and I showed her where they were. She settled in immediately, flouncing her feathers around them, snuggling her warm breast against them, and began a 30-day sit. "Why are you letting her sit? It's too late in the year. You'll have scrawny little things running around freezing to death." That was what my neighbor thought of Gracie's nest. I responded defensively. "She wants to sit." He countered like teacher to student. "Take the eggs away, she'll get over it, she's a chicken." I took a deep breath and made a fool of myself. Well, I think if you're going to keep an animal because it suits you, because you need it, because you're exploiting it for some reason, it's still entitled to some level of self-determination. I started this bit of writing because I knew Gracie's story was connected to mine. I let her sit on those eggs late into the season, beyond what was good for her. I fought a mink for her, I brought her treats, I worried about her, I treasured her. Because sitting so persistently and instinctively on that nest, she just seemed the embodiment of maternal. I loved it, and I loved having a little share in it, because I was out of eggs. That was the basic animal truth, and all the flashes, sweats, insomnia, and crying jags were bringing it home. What kind of animal was I now?
Let's be candid. No one wants to be known as a mature student. When you're in university or college the first time around, a mature student is someone who chooses to spend the weekend at the library and arrives each week at class with the textbook artfully highlighted in multicolored neon hues. You will hand in your assignments, and you'll do it on time. It's early December, and the long-range forecast is calling for a blizzard midweek, exactly the day all your final essays are due. The mature student finds herself in the university parking lot a day before the big storm, during a stolen hour away from work, scrambling together the change for the meter, rushing around to shove the papers into the drop boxes. "Is this what it means to be old?" one Susan asks the other, upon returning from the successful drop-off. "Yes," comes the reply. "Soon we'll be the kind of people who sit in the car at 5 a.m., ready and waiting to pull out of the driveway well in time for our 9 a.m. appointment."
Sign of respect. Afraid she's fallen or had a stroke when she doesn't answer my knock. I have the nurse unlock her door, ignoring with a daughter's disdain the clearly written post-it note, "Do not disturb," in her school teacher hand stuck above the knob. And can only laugh with surprise and a kind of relief and delight to see two bare bodies half rise on the bed as I step in. Sorry, I back out fast. Who gave me the right to breach a shut door? What made me sure age had smothered that flame? I may be losing my memory, but it's a discriminating memory. I have things you will never know, no matter what I remember or forget. There are places in my mind where you can never go.
Thank you all very much for being here. This was a labor of love for all of us, and we are so honored to have the opportunity to share it with all of you. So thank you again for